I was lucky enough this morning to acquire about 8 quarts of beautiful strawberries. So I'm in the process of cutting some of them up and putting sugar on them. And I'm going to make some yellow cupcakes to pour the strawberries over. And then add some whipped topping for dessert. So I'm just getting started making the yellow cupcakes, just plain cupcakes. So I've got my muffin tin over here. Now you can put the muffin cups in them and then grease or spray the inside of the muffin cups. But I've just sprayed the muffin tin with some baking spray, and I'm sprinkling a little flour inside. Kind of messy, but I'm trying to keep them from sticking. The last cupcakes or muffins that I made stuck pretty well, so I'm trying to avoid that. So I'm just gonna shake that around a little bit and maybe wipe off the top so it doesn't mess up the pan so much. So for this recipe, I have 2 1/3 cups of plain flour. And I'm going to add to that 2 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder. So there's 1, 2 1/2. And a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And I'm not sure what baby's trying to tell me today, but she's been talking a pretty good bit. So first thing, I'm going to make a little room here. Get my little mixing bowl. And my hand mixer. And to my mixing bowl, I'm going to add 1 cup of butter. Now I've melted the butter. And to that, I'm going to add 1 1/4 cups of sugar, which I have pre-measured in this little bowl. And I'm going with the hand mixer to blend this together until it's nice and fluffy. And I've already preheated my oven to 350 degrees. So now I'm going to add 3 eggs, 1 at a time. And beat well after every addition. And egg number 2. And here's the last egg. The next ingredient is 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And this is some more of my granddaughter's homemade vanilla extract, and it is superb. And now I'm going to start adding the flour mixture. I've got 2 1/3 cups of the flour that already has the baking powder and salt in it. So I'm going to start adding that a couple of heaping tablespoons at the time, and alternating adding the flour with 2/3 cup of milk. I'll add a little bit of milk at the time, and I'm beating after each addition. It's probably about 30 seconds of beating after each addition. And the reason why I do it this way, adding the flour and the milk or sour cream or whatever I happen to be adding, a little bit at the time and beating in between, is because it affects the texture. It affects the texture of the cake. And in years gone by, the texture of my cake used to be more like cornbread, but now it's very fine because of this method of putting the batter together. All right, I think we're down to the last of the flour. And the last of the milk. All right, here we go. I'm going to spoon this into my muffin cups. So what I'm going to do is fill the muffin cups about 2/3 full. And I think that's going to be about 2 tablespoons, and I think I got a little bit too much in that one. May have to scoop out a little bit. That one's okay. So this is ready to go into the oven. I have a little bit of batter left, so I need to find another muffin tin, but I'm going to go ahead and slide these into the oven. And they'll need to cook about 20 or 25 minutes. I've just pulled our cupcakes out of the oven. So, they look pretty darn good. So let's cut one open and see what it looks like on the inside. Oh yes, it looks very good. And if you'll notice, it has a very fine texture, not like cornbread at all. So mixing the batter up the way I did, adding just a little bit of flour and milk at the time and alternating and beating in between, really gives it a good texture. Delicious. I'm going to take the strawberries and cut them up in half at least, and some of the bigger ones I'll cut into like 3 pieces, but nice big chunks. And then I'm going to add about half a cup of sugar and stir them up good and put them in the refrigerator until supper time. And the sugar will mix with the water that comes out of the juice that comes out of the strawberries, and will make a little glaze, so to speak, on the strawberries. And then I'll scoop those over the muffins and add some whipped topping, and we'll have our homemade strawberry shortcakes. So let's see. That's a 1/4 of a cup of sugar. I'm going to add just a little bit more, so it's probably a 1/3 of a cup of sugar I've added to the strawberries. Now I'm going to stir them up. Put the lid on it, and I'm going to stick it in the refrigerator until time for supper.